So let's look at two standard criticisms of Hume's work, one centering on his philosophy of mind and the other targeting his epistemic rules, Hume's fork. In philosophy of mind, Hume argues that all our mental contents originate in experience, impressions, and that any other mental contents, ideas, are mere copies of impressions. And so, on pages 11 through 12, we find Hume saying this: "We may prosecute this inquiry to whatever length we please, where we shall always find that every idea which we imagine is copied from a similar impression. Those who would assert that this proposition is not universally true," and note the language carefully here, universally true, "without exception, have only one, and that is a very easy method of refuting it, by producing that idea which, in their opinion, is not derived from this source. It will then be incumbent on us, if we would maintain our doctrine, to produce the impression or lively perception which corresponds to it." So, here's Hume saying, here's my theory, all ideas have their origins in impressions, full stop. Come and get me copper. And then something remarkable happens. Just a few lines down, on page 12, Hume says this: "There is, however, one contrary phenomenon which may prove that it is not absolutely impossible for ideas to rise independent of their correspondent impressions. Suppose, therefore, a person to have enjoyed his sight for 30 years and to have become perfectly acquainted with colors of all kinds except for one particular shade of blue, for instance, which it has never been his fortune to meet with. Let all the different shades of that color, except that single one, be placed before him, descending gradually from the deepest to the lightest." So think, for example, of a paint sample, going from sky blue to sky blue number 2, or whatever they call it, Costa Rica blue, as opposed to blue ocean. So let's say we have a whole range of different shades of blue. Let all the shades of that color, except for the single one which the fellow has not met with, be placed before him, descending gradually from the deepest to the lightest. It will be sensible that there is a greater distance in that place between the contiguous colors than in any other. Now I ask whether it be possible for him, from his own imagination, to supply this deficiency, and raise up to himself the idea of that particular shade, though it had never been conveyed to him by his senses. And I believe that there are few who will not be of the opinion that he can. And this may serve as a proof that the simple ideas are not always in every instance derived from the correspondent impressions. Though this instance is so singular that it is scarcely worth observing and does not merit that for it alone we should alter our general maxim. So Hume supplies us with his own counterexample to his theory, and then says, move along, folks, nothing to see here. Now let's turn to epistemology. Hume's fork decrees that there are only two kinds of meaningful statements: relations of ideas and matters of fact. Now, This is a proposition. There are only two kinds of meaningful statements: relations of ideas and matters of fact. It just happens to be a proposition about propositions. So let's ask ourselves, what kind of proposition is it? Is it a matter of fact? No, because it's stated as a universal rule whose contrary must be false. Is it a relation of ideas? No, because it purports to disclose new information. It is no mere is a statement. And so, Hume's fork is incoherent on its own terms.